So let's move into Gutenberg and see what really is Gutenberg. So it's basically aimless to create a page without a content. Okay, we can just create pages without content on it. It's no use. So previously they've used the classic editor to add content on the page, but it was a bit less. It was just basic. You create just text and you edit image, and then you. So WordPress came up with that editor, and they decided to include it as part of the core of WordPress. So what is Gutenberg? Okay. So Gutenberg is the new default WordPress block editor. Now you might be asking, what is a block? Okay. So it uses blocks to build much more complex designs than the usual classic editor. Okay. So the usual classic editor, if you worked on Joomla or WordPress before, you will see that when you go and it has this basic formatting options like you have in Word, like alignment and bold and all these things. Okay. It has this, and then a place where you can add content. It's just basic. Now with Gutenberg, it uses something called blocks to create complex designs on your page. Okay. It allows you to add different types of content without the use of a separate plugin. Okay. We will look at it. So let's basically go through some of the common menus that you'll be using, or common options or buttons that you'll be using. So we break down the editor into several parts, and the first part is we have this add block, redo, undo, the content structure, and block navigation. So if you open up either page or post, you will have this option here. You have the plus sign, and then you have the arrow going back, arrow going forward. How do you call this? Inverted exclamation mark. I'm not really sure. So you have this letter I in sort of like information, and then you have nest navigation or something. So the plus sign is the add block. It allows you to add a new block. And undo, which is very common. I think most of us know what that means. It undo the changes and edits. Redo does the opposite. It redoes the changes and edits. And the information sort of icon there represents the content structure. Okay. It gives you a summary of what or how many elements you are using. Okay. So if you are using sort of like a couple of elements, we will talk about what these elements are, or the content. It will give you a brief summary of how many you are using. Okay, if you click on that icon there, and then you have the block navigation. This is the hierarchical structure of the elements used. Which elements is under which? And then we have the page title or the post title, which is the first thing that you must do or you will do. Is this. You add a title first, and then you decide what content you want to add. And then you have the content block. So the content block is structured immediately after the page or post title. It's basically the same thing you'll do for page and posts. Okay. The content block is basically the area where you'll create all your contents and add blocks there. So what do I really mean when I say this? Your content block, and what are they anyway? So if you can remember, we created a page and named it population. Okay? Now, so if I delete this, you will have something like this: start writing or typing, or choose a block. Okay. Previously, we just go to tiny MCE and editor, and then we just type our content. We can add image in there. We can bold text. This is much different. Okay. The idea is quite different now. Okay. So we look at pages. Now we have the flexibility to put content wherever we want, however we want. Okay. For example, previously, we just go and we type anything down, okay, and sort of it creates this kind of sequential flow from top to bottom. With Gutenberg Editor, it's much more flexible now. Okay. I can just add a new block by clicking on that plus sign button there, and I'll say I want an image, I want a gallery to be displayed, I want to insert an audio or maybe a cover image or a file or code, and the list goes on. Okay. Most of these blocks, common blocks, formatting blocks, elements, widgets, and the list goes on. If you add plugins and that plugin is compatible or has some features of Gutenberg, it will appear here, okay, like WP Media folder. Okay. That's an external plugin, but it works well with Gutenberg. Okay. So let's use a block. Let's say we don't want our our post to be just one line all the way across the page. We want it to have maybe 2 columns. Okay? One column will add an image, maybe the picture of our office, and then the other column will add some text, maybe the address of the office. Okay? So I will change this to contact. And then I'll add a block. Okay. So I'll click on block. I'll go down to layout elements and I'll click on columns. So once I click on columns, you can see that now it separates or it divides my page into 2 columns. Okay. So the first column is this one, the second column is this one. So with these 2 columns, I can now add different content on each of these modules. So maybe the first one, I'll say I will add an image. Oh, we don't have image here. Okay. Unfortunately, there's no image here. Can you remove this block and add something else? Maybe a code, since we've been talking too much about codes these days. Codes. Here. This is my first code. And then on the other side, other column. Remember, I created 2 columns here. The first column, I've inserted a block called quotes. The second column, I will insert a block called paragraph. And then I'll type in this is my paragraph. I know this is not a more logical sort of example. Like I've said, I created a contact page and then I added quote and then I added paragraph. It's not too logical, but the idea is there. Okay? You create a page, you create your own blocks, you select the type of block you want, then you add it to your page. So does that make any sense at all? Or? No? Yes? Okay. So we've looked at document. Now we have a reason to talk about block. So if you look here, if I click on this block here, it gives me options. So I can say, maybe I want 3 columns, move up. Maybe I want 4 columns, move up. Okay. Now notice this block. Once I move over and I click on paragraph, it changes. Okay, the settings of a paragraph block appears on this block container here. Okay. So each block has their own settings, and it's different across all the block contents that you can that are available on Gutenberg. Okay. So with paragraph, I have a paragraph settings here. I can set the text to a very big font size, drop the cap, change the color of the background and of the text as well. So maybe I change it to dark blue, and this one to white, and it's also good because it gives you something. This color combination may be hard for people to read. Using a darker background color or a brighter text, it helps you as well. Okay. And then you have advanced settings there to add additional CSS class to it, so you can style it however you want using CSS. Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Do you all understand what we've just gone through? Okay. So we'll just recap. What we just talked about is the Gutenberg Editor. Okay. Now it's known as the block editor. So the Gutenberg block editor changes the way we see things and the way we do things with WordPress now. We usually do things like you just go and add a content, but now we have more control over how the contents are being displayed using the idea of blocks. At first, it's a bit daunting to move around in Gutenberg Editor, okay? But once you move around, you know where to click, and it shows. So here, I can say, okay, I want to add a new block. So I have 2 columns on top, and now I want to add only just one column at the bottom. So all my text goes all the way to the other side there. So on top here, you can see that the text will something like this. Okay. It has a certain width to it. With this one, it goes all the way from the width of your site from your left to your right. Okay. So it gives you the option to create different types of layout if you want to. Okay. You can also rearrange by clicking here and moving it up. Oh, this one. Yeah. So maybe you made a mistake and you had these 2 columns on top of there, and then you said, oh, this should be on top there, but I placed it here, so maybe I'll just delete. No, you can just move this one up and the other one down, okay, by using these ones here. Up and down. Move down, move up. Okay. Within this block here, you can do very basic things like align the text or bold the text, add a quick link to it, do something if you want it with code and inline image. And with these 3 dots there, you have more options there. You can hide the settings, duplicate, insert that before, edit HTML, and add to reusable blocks. Means basically you save that block and then remove that block.